Well, last night wasn't any fun, so we're going to talk about some good news. Like, let's get into the 2025 mock offensive signing class with somebody from Bama Online.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's normally him. But today I upgraded with Joseph Hastings from Bama Online, one of his cohorts over there at Bama Online. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Joseph Hastings, how you doing today, buddy?
And Luke, I'm doing excellent. Just wrapped up the National Signing Day, the traditional National Signing Day. Usually, this is when the big-time prospects end up signing. There were some big signings that happened on Wednesday, but most of it takes place during the early signing period nowadays in December. Got to see Ryan Williams officially sign with the Crimson Tide, as well as Noah Carter and in-state linebacker Quinn QB Reese. So that was great to see those guys fulfill their dreams and sign with the Alabama Crimson Tide. And yeah, looking forward to the 2025 cycle now, as we're about to get into. That's how quickly things move in recruiting. You go from, signing a great class, all things considered, with Nick Saban retiring, to now moving on to see what the first full class post Nick Saban looks like.
And that's going to be interesting. But, as Jerry Seinfeld has always told us, men don't care what's on TV. We only care what else is on TV. So we're done with the 2024 class. I could sit here and wax poetic all day about Ryan Williams because I love me some Ryan Williams. Everybody tells me I love Ryan Williams too much, but I just want everybody to know it. Now, so let's move on to the 2025 class. You guys have already put out a mock 2025 offensive signing class, and it starts out with a surprise at quarterback. I just assumed. Now, again, assuming makes an ass out of you and me, we've always heard that. But I assumed you guys were going to go the KJ Lacey route. That makes a lot of sense to me. He's from Saraland, throws the ball to Ryan Williams. Obviously, Alabama's still recruiting Antonio Coleman. Saraland's loaded. They're in state, yada, yada, yada. But you guys went with Deuce Knight out of Mississippi, I think Lucedale, Mississippi, and he's committed to Notre Dame right now. But you guys have a lot of reason to think he's going to end up flipping to the Tide.
First thing I want to say is head to Bamaonline.com to check out that full mock draft. It's mock class, I should say. It's for the offensive side of the football. Going to be releasing the defensive side real soon. So definitely be sure to check that out. As it pertains to Deuce Knight, look, Kalen DeBoer, that was his first stop on the road for the Alabama Crimson Tide as their new head coach. He went out to go see Deuce, which, meant a lot to him. That he was a priority early on, got that re-offer from Bama. He changed his profile picture on Instagram. Don't know if that's still the case. Have to double check on that. But he changed it to him in a Bama uniform, but has been commenting Roll Tide and, the elephant emoji and, just talking to Alabama recruits on social media. So, he's one to watch out for, especially when you consider the fact that, Kalen DeBoer really prioritized from the get-go. He has yet to visit Alabama's campus yet under Coach DeBoer. It's only been a couple of weeks, but you'd expect to see him sometime during the spring or maybe the summer. So he'll definitely be one to watch. Also Julian Juju Lewis, who's committed to USC. KJ Lacey, as you mentioned, will he get that re-offer? These are all things that we're paying attention to. And these mock classes, 11 months away, they're really tough to predict. They're even tough to predict a couple of weeks out with how fluid recruiting is. But, this is kind of, a wait and see type of deal. But, just based on things have been going, Alabama's going to have a shot there at Deuce Knight, who's committed to Notre Dame right now.
And because we're going to talk about basketball in the final segment, because that's how I want to leave people depressed, we're going to sort of quickly go through all the other offensive guys, especially when it comes to offensive line. But I definitely want to talk about running backs here for a second. All right, so you got Turbo Rogers in the class. He's already in the class, verbally. But he's transferring from IMG back to Montgomery. My understanding is going to be back or going to Carver. He may be going somewhere else. But I'll tell you something. I love the fact that he was at IMG to begin with. You get to go up against in practice a bunch of 5-star and 4-star dudes all over the place. And you get to see what that training facility is like. And IMG, frankly, is probably the closest thing to college before you get to college, right? So I think that was a good experience for him, but I'm also a HSAA guy. I love that Alabama talent is coming home to play in Alabama. Talk about Turbo Rogers.
Yeah, Turbo Rogers is exceptional. I got to see him this past season. One thing that's pretty underrated about his game, because he has the nickname Turbo, but he's a really powerful running back. He can run through contact, go in between, the offensive line. He's not just somebody who's going to, run on the outside, or catch passes in the slot. He's fine going up against those big time defensive tackles, and linebackers there. So that's one thing I like about him, just, his physical presence that he brings to the football field, even though he's only 5'8", plays a lot bigger than that. And talking about that IMG experience, he got to play behind Jarrett Gibson, a Texas running back signing, one of the top running backs in the 2024 class. Donovan Johnson, one of the top running backs in the 2025 class. So splitting carries and that nature, he told me, reminded him kind of what it would be like at Alabama, based on the history of how things typically go there at that position with the Crimson Tide. So, that's something that really stood out to him. And just talking about him as a recruit and his recruitment, yeah, you have to honor that and admire what he's been doing. Sticking with Alabama throughout this process, with Coach Saban no longer being there, the coach that he committed to, and giving Coach DeBoer a chance, visiting for that junior day. He was the only commitment on campus for that junior day. So I think that kind of speaks volumes. And he plans on getting back to Alabama in the spring. We'll see what happens with his recruitment, but he just seems very, very locked in with Alabama, the school, Alabama, the program, not necessarily him committing to Nick Saban, so to speak. And, Crimson Tide keeping Robert Gillespie as running backs coach was definitely important.
All right. And then the other one that is somewhat of a surprise, because I would think most people project him to Auburn right now, and that's Alvin Henderson out of Elba. I really like this kid a lot too. He's been on the scene since he was like in 9th grade. I mean, everybody's known this kid's name. Both he and Rogers have sort of been on the same trajectory, I would say. And I think they are very similar styles. Correct me if I'm wrong, but having him in this class would be awesome. I would love to have him, but why am I supposed to think he's going to go to Alabama instead of Auburn right now?
I mean, once again, when we talk about prioritizing these guys early on, it means a lot. And Alvin was seen by Alabama's coaching staff twice. They came out to his basketball game. Coach DeBoer went out to go visit him as well. So, when it's become pretty evident early on that a running back is going to be prioritized by a coaching staff, he's going to be one to watch. Obviously that relationship with Robert Gillespie still being there, and him still keeping that relationship, that's going to be one to pay attention to. And we'll mention again with the mock classes, they're really tough to project 11 months out. We're still waiting to see unofficial visits in the spring, official visits in the summer and the fall, how things turn out, top schools list, all of that. There's a lot of factors that remain to be seen. We do believe that there is ground to make up right now in Henderson's recruitment, but the fact that, there was a lot of talk about him committing to Auburn and that potentially happening last season or earlier this year, that hasn't happened yet. So the longer he, delays that commitment, so to speak, and, pushes it off, that kind of benefits Alabama in terms of the relationship building process with Coach DeBoer, Coach Grubb, the new coaches, and keeping things going with Gillespie. So, yeah, look, he likes Alabama. We've talked about it before. He likes their running back history, their tradition. He said he doesn't mind playing with Turbo Rogers. So, he'll be one to watch, and kind of projecting forward, it seems like Bama's going to have some ground to make up. But based on how things could potentially go this upcoming season, we could see Alvin Henderson in this class.
Yeah, but when you put out a mock draft, what's going to happen, right? Everybody's like, okay, this is who we're getting. And then when we don't get one of them, everybody's going to be like, Joseph Hastings told me we're getting him. I don't understand. But Joseph, I need to tell everybody about FanDuel right now. Absolutely love FanDuel, and I don't even know why. I'm going to put the overlay back on there. I love it so much. FanDuel.com/lockedon is where you want to go. Oh, man, this is so much fun right here on the precipice of the Super Bowl. And you're going to celebrate the Super Bowl and have fun. So why don't you do it with America's #1 sportsbook? If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. There'll be a lot of them to choose from on FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, however many you want. Not only can you bet on who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which player will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. Like how many completions, how many receptions, how many carries for all these different cats in the Super Bowl, and there are a bunch of them. New customers join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets with your first bet of $5 or more if that wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to sign up. That's FanDuel.com / locked on to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So, I got to take this. I'm staying in Margaritaville in Lake Tahoe, which is kind of like staying in in an igloo in Orlando, I guess. But they have these room keys you put on your wristband and whatever. I keep looking at that. I'm like, take that off. You look like a weirdo. Of course, it has nothing to do with the room key. Let's go to wide receivers now on this 2025 mock class that we're running down. I'm not. I'm going to say I like the class you guys put up. Here's who you put up. Travis Smith Jr., who's a top 100 kid. Marcus Harris, a top 100 kid from Mater Dei in California. Derek Smith, that was a bit of a surprise for me, from Southside Selma in Alabama, of course. And then Dalen Upshaw, who's a 3-star from Central Phoenix City. I kind of thought maybe one of the bigger 5-star names, the kid, was it Caleb Cunningham? Is that his name, out of Mississippi?
Cunningham out of Mississippi, yeah.
I thought maybe he would be an option. So I'm not, it's not like I'm disappointed in the list. It's been a minute, it seems like, since we've not had a 5-star receiver come on board,
Yeah. I mean, it has been. And look, you look at Alabama's 2025 recruiting class, and, they got a couple guys in the fold right now. What they had before was Ryan Williams and Jamie French. So, it's going to be hard to kind of replicate what that class was projected to be.
And no Jamie French on this one, by the way. I don't mean to cut you off, but I think that'll raise some eyebrows.
Yeah, Jamie French right now has a admitted top 3 of Florida State, Miami, and Ohio State. Alabama's not in there. There's going to be some ground to make up. Whereas with Travis Smith and Derek Smith, they were able to get them on campus, as well as Marcus Harris, Dalen Upshaw as well. That's kind of something that we're factoring in as well, that the junior day visits that were taken, the interest that was shown in Alabama early on. I'm going to keep on repeating this. Like the recruiting cycle, each recruiting cycle is about 1.5 years, 2 years for each prospect as it pertains to, high interest level, taking a lot of visits, things of that nature, communication with the staff, etc. So with 11 months of that being, we're projecting forward, we have to take some, precedents into account. We have to take some, what we know to this point, which is all 4 of them visited. 3 of them spoke really highly of Alabama, waiting to see if Upshaw gets that offer from the Crimson Tide, but he spoke well of them before after meeting with Coach DeBoer. So, there's a lot of factors that are taken into play when creating a mock class like this. But, with Travis Smith, he says that Alabama's going to make his top 8 on Super Bowl Sunday. You're just talking about the Super Bowl. So Bama's made some good progress of him early on after extending that offer. Marcus Harris knew the Washington staff before, had visited Washington prior. And look, it's not easy making the trip out from California to Tuscaloosa. He did that within 3 weeks' notice, obviously from Coach DeBoer being hired to when they hosted that junior day event. So that shows immediate interest. And then also Derek Smith, he came out to Bama Online and said that Alabama's in his top 3. He spoke with us about that. So I would definitely encourage people to go to Bama Online, read what these kids had to say about Alabama, their time on campus. That kind of adds some more perspective to why we included them in our mock class. But yeah, it could definitely change. And I can't rule out Jamie French. After speaking to him at Battle Miami, I can't rule out Caleb Cunningham, who has Alabama in his top 12. But that's where things stand right now, so to speak.
Okay, and again, I think this would be a dang good receiver class. But again, just not having that like superstar in there, and boy, you hate saying that because it feels like you're cutting on other guys. But not having the Caleb Cunningham or the Jamie French in there, especially when you already had Jamie French on board. But I'm at the same token, I'm very pleasantly surprised you have Derek Smith from Selma Southside in there, and then we'll talk about the offensive line and the tight ends just briefly here because. Frankly, they didn't. First of all, on tight end, you're like, we're not sure yet.
Yeah.
We're somebody that's going to receive an offer later, which tells me that there's no Caleb Odom out there. Alabama signed probably the best tight end in the country this year in Caleb Odom. He's pretty fantastic, a 5-star in some circles. And then you've got 3 offensive linemen that you project, and then 2 more that you say will receive an offer later that were just unnamed. Andrew Babalola. Am I saying that right?
I'll let you take the pronunciation on that one. We're getting used to we're getting used to all of these young men, because he just got offered as well. I believe that's the correct pronunciation.
If you want to say Alabama's Andrew Babalolo, boy, that's going to be tough for everybody. Then Jackson, of course, he's from Kansas. He's one of the top offensive tackles in the country, and probably the best guy to come out of Kansas in a while, I would think, the best prospect. Jackson Lloyd, who's a 3-star from Carmel High School in California, and then Mal Waldrop from Central Phoenix City. Of course, I mentioned the wide receiver, Jalen Upshaw, who's also from Central Phoenix City, so Alabama would dip back in that area. And 2 others to be named later. Again, nice grouping, not going to knock you over when you're used to getting J.C. Latham in the class, et cetera. And maybe they still will. We just don't know who it is out there yet.
Essentially, that's the case. When the offers – look, you got to understand. So Coach DeBoer made the move over from Washington to Alabama. There wasn't a lot of overlap in terms of the recruits that Alabama was going after and Washington was going after. So it's not like you can just jump right back in. So you're going to see some new offers from prospects on the West Coast. And, there was recruits in the Southeast that they just knew Washington just couldn't go after. They wouldn't have been able to get in the mix with them, and now they are. So you're going to – there's going to be a time evaluation period of time here that's going to have to take place, and spring evaluation, summer camp evaluation, things of that nature. As for the tight ends, Caleb Odom didn't receive an offer until March of 2023. So that's something to take into consideration as well. When you're looking at him, and Favor Edwin, who was in pursuit by Alabama, tackle out of Georgia, he didn't receive an offer until June. So that's kind of the precedents that we're taking into account here. Even with an established Nick Saban staff, there are offers that take place later, whether that be in the spring or the summer, or potentially even in the fall with, senior season evaluation. So, that's what we're taking into account. But yeah, Alabama's, reoffered a few tight ends. They recently played host to one from Nebraska, Chase Lofton. He's an on 300 tight end. Desan Brame holds an offer. Keota Armstrong out of Texas holds an offer. So, we're waiting to see what happens in terms of the full offer list, the full evaluation list. And that kind of explains why there aren't any names attached to those just yet.
All right, I'm going to tell everybody about Game Time right now. When we come back, we're going to talk about that debacle on the Plains last night. I love the Game Time app. I really do. I've used it a million times. I know if you've listened to this podcast a lot, I've used it a million times. I love it. I used it to get into a Dolphins game this year. I used it to go to the Alabama-Tennessee game. I used it to send my son to the World Series. And look, what would you do with an extra $100 in Las Vegas if you were there for the big game? Would you go buy yourself a great dinner or put it all on red or black? Whatever you want to do. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And right now, new users get $100 off when they buy a big game ticket with code Vegas100. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. So if you're going to the Super Bowl and you're like, I need a ticket, use Game Time to get $100 off right there. Look, last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Views from all seats in the venue. That is so crucial to me. Lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection. If they cancel the Super Bowl, there's going to be a lot of other things to worry about. Job loss protection. You can buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. I've done that. I know you can do it. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Right now, all Game Time users get $100 off a big game ticket with code Vegas100. Terms apply. Just download the Game Time app and use code Vegas100. That's VEGAS 100 for $100 off the big game. Or if you're not going to the game, use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. That's code Locked On for $20 off. So go to Game Time, check that out. All right, so Bama took it on the chin last night in basketball. I mean, look, I predicted Auburn would win and probably win big. I'm not super disappointed in anything. I know there's some folks talking about the number of free throws, and yeah, I mean, Auburn got an inordinate amount of calls. I mean, it's what you do at home. That's how it goes. And I would hope that eventually Auburn fans will quit complaining about the officiating because they'll see, hey, when we're at home, we go to the free throw line 50 times, but they won't. And really, I think this is Alabama had a very little shot to win this game. I really believe that. I believe Alabama's just as good a team as Auburn is, but just in that venue, in that moment, Alabama was not going to win that game. Not super disappointed in that. I'm a little disappointed in the lack of toughness I saw. I wanted to see more fight and comeback towards the latter stages of the game, even when we knew it was over, even when we knew a comeback was like improbable. I would have liked to have seen a little more gusto from the squad. But big picture, this isn't that big of a deal. Alabama has proven itself time and again. They're going to be in the dance easily. What you can't do is let Auburn beat you twice and go to LSU at 11 o'clock on Saturday and lose that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. Look, the perspective is that Alabama, they're still number one in the SEC as it pertains to being tied atop the SEC conference record, 8-2. You want to win that game. It's not fun losing to Auburn, a rival of that nature. But they were close, relatively speaking, for most of that first half. It was a 39-39 game, I believe, at one point, and then it just kind of got away from them. And in that second half, didn't get extremely bad as it could have gotten, but it never got really close either. It was kind of hovering in that, like that 15, 20 point range around that area. So, look, Alabama has, in my opinion, a nice little mix of older and younger talent too, which kind of bodes well for the postseason. They postseason tournament play. Yeah, you have a head coach in Nate Oates, who's regarded as one of the best in the sport. Easily one of the best in the SEC. So, when projecting them for, potentially winning, the SEC outright, winning the tournament, the SEC tournament, whatever, you have to like Alabama's chances, when it comes to a 4 or 5 game stretch in the SEC tournament, and then projecting forward with the NCAA tournament. It's going to be, we're just going to have to see if Alabama breaks through this year under Coach Oates. Is this the year to get past, Sweet 16, make it to the Elite 8, potentially get to that Final Four appearance, that coveted Final Four appearance. So, but just based on the way the team has been playing, since they got off to that 6-5 start, played against some really tough teams, 3 of the top 20 teams in the country, in Creighton, Arizona, and Purdue. Those are, and those are hard losses, like when you're going up against tough teams like that. But what's been encouraging is how they played in conference play, and, having a 10-2 record over the past 12 games. And I think that's pretty good. Bodes well for the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, and again, you hate to lose to Auburn. I mean, Alabama won 3 straight against them. Nate Oates now has a 6-4 record against Bruce Pearl. That's pretty awesome. And I'm not telling people to just totally discount this and not be down about it. It's just not the same as a football thing. I wanted to win it as badly as anybody. But don't get too caught up in it. And I think it's even more crucial the team doesn't get caught up in it and lose at LSU, a team they should definitely beat on Saturday. They need to go down there and win that ball game. And then everything's sort of back on track. Alabama's schedule does not ease up. You're at Auburn, you've already lost that. You go to LSU, you're on the road in the SEC. It's never easy. Then you got Florida at home, then you welcome Texas A&M. It's just not going to ease up. Alabama's still got to welcome in Tennessee. They still got to go to Florida and go to Kentucky and Ole Miss. These are not easy places. So Alabama's going to lose some more. You just got to try to lose as few as possible. They're not winning out. I want to let everybody know that right now. Alabama ain't winning out this SEC run. So let that idea go and don't get too upset when they do get one of these, lose a couple of these games, because that is definitely going to happen. But, Mark Sears still had 25 points. I was glad to see that. I thought it was very odd. I don't think Nick Pringle nor Janai Broome had a foul. How is that possible when you're 85 foul shots attempted or whatever it was? But just a lot of weird stuff. And, hey, whenever you go to Auburn, weird stuff happens, sometimes for you, sometimes against you, and you just got to live with it and live with the results. But Joseph, thank you so much for being with us today, man. It was an absolute pleasure. You're the best. Truly appreciate you. And we'll have you on again soon. And thanks for filling in very admirably and even more successfully than Jimmy.
Thanks so much, Luke, for having me on. Definitely look forward to catching up, talking more Alabama recruiting, basketball recruiting too. We got a story posted on Bamaonline on Caleb Holt, one of the top in-state prospects,
That's
regardless of class. Yeah, he's really good. So I got to talk about his visit for the LSU game. So be sure to check that out and check out some of our post-junior day content. Still got plenty of more visit recap stories coming up. But thank you again for having me on, man.
All right, really quickly, you feel good about Caleb Holt in Alabama?
That's a long time. There's a long time left in his recruiting process. I think the reclassification possibility is intriguing. We talked about that. He likes the way Alabama plays. He likes especially their intensity on defense. That's something that he was talking to me about, how Coach Oates really emphasizes that. So that was one of his marking points. But he's really open to all his options right now. He's not, you look on his social media, he's not posting top schools lists and saying, this fan base get me up, to this amount of numbers of followers. He's, kind of
he's going to get him himself.
He's going to get him for sure. So, but no, he definitely has interest in Alabama right now.
All right, my friend. Thank you, Joseph. We'll talk to you again soon, buddy, and roll tide.
Roll tide. Take care, Luke.